It didn't begin with a fight or a clear betrayal, it started as a whisper. A subtle shift in the atmosphere. The kind of feeling that rests in the back of your mind. Unspoken, but persistent. I brushed it off at first. Probably stress. We were less than a month away from our wedding, after all. Nerves were normal, right? But the feeling didn't go away. Crept into quiet moments. Into the stillness between conversations. It wasn't loud. It was something just beneath the surface. Like a hum I couldn't switch off. Something was off, and no matter how I tried to rationalize it, I couldn't shake the ache building in my chest. My name's Daniel. A few months ago, I believed I was about to step into the happiest chapter of my life. Elise and I had been together 4 years. We were weeks away from saying I do. Between cake tastings and seating charts, life was busy and chaotic, but in a beautiful way, or so I thought. Then, during one of those ordinary evenings, I noticed it. Elise curled up on the couch next to me, her phone lighting up her face. She was smiling, but it wasn't a smile I recognized. Not the one she gave me when we teased each other or made late-night snack runs. This smile was different, private, almost tender. It wasn't meant for me. "Who's got you grinning like that?" I asked, half joking, trying to sound casual. She tucked her hair behind her ear, still smiling. "Oh, just Marcus," she said. "An old college friend. He's been going through some stuff." It was the first time I'd ever heard the name. 4 years together, and she had never mentioned him. Not once. I told myself I was overthinking it. Love is trust. And I trusted her. At least I wanted to. But then she started changing her phone habits. She put a passcode on her screen, something we'd never needed before. She began stepping outside to take calls, whispering, falling quiet if I walked into the room. The hesitation in her eyes when I asked to use her phone. It all began to stack up, piece by piece. A slow build of distance I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. Still, I stayed patient, gave her the benefit of the doubt. Until one night, while she was in the bathroom, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. My stomach twisted. That whisper in my chest had turned into a shout. I didn't plan to go through her messages. I just wanted peace of mind, reassurance. But I already knew her passcode just from memory, not from spying. And so I opened it. The first thing I saw was Marcus's name at the top of her messages. I tapped it. What I found wasn't a conversation between casual friends. It wasn't someone comforting another through hard times. It was late-night messages dripping with nostalgia, flirty remarks, and emotional intimacy. Photos of them from college. Messages that read, "I miss what we had," and "Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if we stayed together." And worse, replies from Elise that made my chest hollow out. "I think about you more than I should," followed by long messages filled with emojis, longing, and confessions she hadn't shared with me in years. I stood there frozen, staring at the screen like it was a window into a life I hadn't been invited into. When she walked back into the room, towel around her shoulders, humming like it was any other night, I just looked at her. My expression must have given everything away. She stopped in her tracks. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't even cry. I just asked, softly, "How long has this been going on?" She dropped her eyes. Her shoulders slumped. "I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. "It started with just talking, but it had become so much more than that." She hadn't just confided in someone. She had opened her heart to him, shared pieces of herself that should have belonged to us. Maybe they hadn't kissed. Maybe they hadn't crossed a physical line. But emotionally, she had left our relationship behind long ago. The wedding was called off. She cried, said it was a mistake, swore it hadn't gone further. But for me, it already had. The damage was done. The trust, gone. Making those phone calls, canceling venues, informing guests, watching people try to hide their shock and sympathy. It felt like unraveling my own identity thread by thread. Our home became unbearable. The scent of her perfume clung to the air. Her mug still sat on the kitchen shelf. Every space whispered memories I no longer wanted to hear. But time, like it always does, moved forward. I reached out to old friends, picked up the guitar I hadn't touched in years, cooked real meals again, walked for hours just to feel the air in my lungs. I learned how to be by myself, not in bitterness, but in restoration. Months later, I ran into her by chance in a little bookshop on a quiet street. She looked different, smaller maybe, tired, but peaceful too. We talked, carefully. She apologized, genuinely, and I forgave her, not to make her feel better, but for my own peace. Because carrying that pain any longer would have been like chaining myself to a chapter that was already over. That evening, I stepped out into the street and let the cool wind touch my face. I wasn't the same man who once stood motionless in our kitchen, watching everything he'd built crumble. I'd become something more, something stronger. That quiet voice inside me, the one I tried so hard to ignore, had been right all along. And listening to it saved me from a lifetime of pretending everything was okay. Sometimes, it's not the loudest warnings that matter most. Sometimes it's the whispers, and they carry the truth you need to hear.